Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Awaken the Wonder. I'm excited to be on the set today here in our studio with my wife, Harmonee Wampler. Now, Harmonee has not joined the set yet. This is actually her premiere and her very first time. But many people have asked me along the way about the questions that are related to Harmonee. How does your wife handle it? How does she deal with all of these things? For those of you that have been watching our Awaken the Wonder podcast and listening, this is our 100th episode, so it's a day of celebration. I thought the best way to celebrate was to bring on my wife, the co-founder, and to ask some of the questions directly to her, and she can answer the questions because they are the most common questions I receive relating to family, how she handles it when I travel, and all the things connected to that. So welcome to the program, Harmonee.
I'm glad to be here.
It's good to have you here, and I'm excited that you're finally on the set here. 100 episodes seems like it's too long, but I know you typically like to avoid the spotlight in the camera. You like to stay in the shadows and hidden. So how are you doing today on the camera?
Well, I guess we'll find out, but not too bad. Maybe it's because you're here.
Awesome. Well, we are celebrating the 100th episode. Our ministry, Kingdom Encounters International, is coming up nearly on 4 years since the ministry was founded. Many people might not have ever heard the story of how the ministry launched from your perspective. Mm-hmm. So this will be kind of your chance to let people into your side of the story, because launching out in faith as an evangelist, as a missionary, it's not easy, and it's full of faith, and it can be kind of scary. Well, how are you going to handle it? How are you going to handle the unknown? What about the money? For you, you really liked to be a stay-at-home mom. That was kind of your goal. And in order for us to launch, you had to work to make it. So talk about the process of starting Kingdom Encounters from your perspective.
Yeah, to really talk about the beginning, you almost have to go back even further than that. And really to the point when we were dating. And I always knew I was going to be in ministry. I knew I was going to marry a pastor. I knew it wasn't going to be a typical pastor role. But then I met you, and we eventually got married. And I knew we were called to ministry, and we youth pastored for a season. But I always felt like it was something more. And I know you did too. We just didn't know what that looked like. And fast forward a few years, we really felt a call to evangelism, and really got to see that up close, and that really brought us to the point where we felt the Lord calling us to launch into ministry on our own, and so it was just a fun journey. But it's also cool to look back and see how God led us through all of that to that point.
Yeah. Now, there's some stories I've told over time, and maybe people are wondering what your thoughts were in the moment. Before we launched out, I was working as an assistant for Daniel Kalenda at Christ for All Nations. Mm-hmm. And I went to a Wednesday night church service where, for those of that have been following the ministry, they've heard of the famous encounter I had where Jesus appeared to me in the body, out of the body, I don't know. You know, I ended up on my face on the floor at a Wednesday night church service. And I was just attending the service. I wasn't preaching or anything.
Yeah.
I ended up falling on my face and had this vision where Jesus commissions me into the nations. Now, the story from my perspective is that I'm having this encounter with the Lord. I come out of it. I couldn't get off the floor for an hour.
Yeah.
And at the time, we had one son, one kid, and he was running around like a madman. They're turning the lights out in the church and all that. So what was it like on your perspective while I'm having this vision?
Yeah, mine wasn't as glorious as your experience. I remember that night very well, and I remember before it happened, you were just saying, man, I could just tell something's going on, something's about to happen, and you just had this expectancy of something good about to happen. And so I remember seeing you go forward, and you didn't even make it to the front. You went down and you were out and through the whole service, and then at the end you were still out, and I went and checked on you, and I kind of touched your back a little bit, rubbed it, and you didn't even move. You were just out. So I'm like, well, I guess we'll just wait a little bit. And here I am. What you didn't mention was that I was 8 months pregnant, chasing after an almost 2-year-old. So I was a little bit ready to go at that point and had it about to here. I'm like, oh no, this better be good. I hope he's having a really good experience because this is a lot of work.
I remember you even told me after I came out of it, you're like, this better be really good.
Yeah. Because church.
We got home that night and you were like, you got to tell me about this. I'm like, I got to tell you.
Yeah, you couldn't even talk.
I couldn't even talk. Yeah. And you're like, this better be really good then.
Yeah. Because church got done and you were still out for about an hour. And I'm chasing around our son who was trying to get on the stage and run around. And I was just getting a little bit tired being 8 months pregnant. But it was all worth it. And I remember finally they were turning off the lights. And I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do? I can't lift him. And so finally you came out as I rubbed your back and kind of shook you a little bit, and you couldn't even talk, and I had to take the keys and drive us home because there was no way you were going to make it home.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Now that next day I tell you what happens. Jesus commissioned me to the nations. Yep. And what were your thoughts in that moment? Yeah,
I was just blown away, and it was just also confirmation of what we had been feeling. And so it was just really encouraging to hear that. And just in that season where we were, we're still at Christ for All Nations, we're still serving there. And so I remember what I said to you was, well, let's just pray about it and ask the Lord, speak it to Daniel Kalenda when it's time to go. And we want to finish out strong there and continue to serve him and let it all be in God's timing. It's really important that you don't rush things, but you do things in God's timing. And so I remember together we held hands and we prayed and said, Lord, we feel you have spoken us to this, and we just ask that you would just speak it to Daniel when it's time and just open up that door.
Now, 7 months go by, Daniel pulls me aside. Mm-hmm. The joke that we had at the time is I called you and I said, well, I think I just got fired, because...
And that's how you led the conversation.
And you're like, wait, what? What happened? What did you do wrong?
Yeah,
and I'm like, well, no, I didn't get fired. It was it was just more of a thing because Daniel had said, dude, you can't stay here. You got to go. You have to go preach the gospel. I can't hold on to you now. And what was it like when you got that call and you were like, oh my goodness, this is happening,
Yeah, at first I was kind of shocked. I knew it was eventually coming. I just wasn't expecting it to happen on that trip. But I also was really excited because I knew this was the next step that God was leading us on. And so there was an excitement in my heart. And I knew a big step of faith was coming as well.
Now, for those watching, there's no way that I could do what I'm doing with Kingdom Encounters, the travel. We've had 260,000 plus people that have now come to Jesus Christ in our gospel campaigns. This is just phenomenal. We're projecting forward this year in 2021 for 1 million people to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ. In addition to that, virtual crusades with over 100,000 people projected to hear the gospel just through that. And on top of that, the media, which you're listening today on YouTube and the Awaken the Wonder podcast. But we have a TV program now that is going out to 182 countries around the world. So for those that weren't aware or that are listening, they might not have known all that was going on. For you haven't been to these crusades due to the fact that we have 4 kids that are 6 and under. And while we have made it a point to try to get you to 1 or 2, the ages of our kids have been so conducive to not having you go for leaving them with extended times. Now we have grandparents that we could try to facilitate those things with, but they're all working, and a typical crusade usually will last anywhere from 8 to 12 days, give or take.
Right.
And that's a long time for that young of kids to be away. So we have just in our mindset elected that it hasn't been the best time for you to come forward at this point. So you have the fruit of all 260,000 of those people that have come to Christ. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of Saturdays to Mondays where I'm gone. Mm-hmm. Or I was in 14 countries last year. 14 countries.
Yeah.
Times all of the days that is. Mm-hmm. There's potential that I could be gone 40 to 50% of the days in a given year on an average day. How do you handle that? How do you share in the harvest while being at home and oftentimes not having me in the picture during those times?
Yeah, the number one thing is the Lord gives grace. And when he calls you to something, he's going to prepare you for it and equip you for that. And so I can definitely feel the Lord's grace on me in this season. And when I look back on previous seasons, I feel like I would not have been as well equipped to handle that. But as the Lord has led us to this season where we get to do this, I can feel the Lord's grace, and so that really helps. And secondly, I know people are praying. I've had many people come to me and just saying, hey, I'm praying for you, especially when Caleb's on trips, and that really means a lot, and it really, really does help. Another thing, I heard Rebecca Kalenda once say that she takes the trips one trip at a time. And at the time, I didn't really quite understand that. I was like, oh, how do you take one trip at a time? Because you know the next one's coming, and you know this one's coming, and but you really do. You just kind of take it one trip at a time. Just focus on that one. You do know there's more coming, but you just take one trip at a time and get through those days, and then enjoy the time, take advantage of the times when you are home.
Now you're every bit as called to this as I am, or this wouldn't be happening. For those that would say, well, your husband travels too much, or that's not good. How could somebody possibly be away from their wife and kids that much? Or, but you're going, but 260,000 people are coming to Christ, and well, that's working now, but what about when the kids are older? And there's a lot of those type of people that maybe they mean the best in the way that they're asking, but how would you address those types of people in those situations?
Yeah, we all have different callings, and Caleb and I have talked many times. We feel the Lord has called us to this, and so He's going to take care of the details of it. And it's not always easy, especially when you have 4 children, as Caleb said, 6 and under. There can be some crazy moments and overtired children, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I love what we get to do. I feel honored that the Lord has called us to this, and so it's really been a blessing.
How can people be praying for you, and what's the best things they can be doing to help you as Kingdom Encounters continues to go forward, as we go after 1 million souls this year? Yeah. How can people partner with you, Harmonee?
Yeah, honestly, in prayer, I know many people say this, but it really does make such a difference, and prayer changes things. And so, if people are thinking about it, I would love to have people praying for me, and Caleb too, and the crazy thing is, a lot of times when Caleb is on a trip, that's when the crazy things happen. That's when the car breaks down or the wash machine stops working, and it's just attacks of the enemy. But just prayer for those times and for me and the kiddos.
How would you talk to people that are maybe in situations where their families do travel, or they're going through it, or they're just, maybe they feel alone right now? Because there's a lot of people that are in single family homes, and while we're not in a single family home and I'm very present when I'm home, there's that element of where you do have to live alone a lot of the time without me in the picture. How have you been able to handle that and work with that?
Yeah, well, first of all, you have to take time to spend time with the Lord. He fills you up, and really you're not alone. This past year we dealt with some crazy situations where I faced some pretty scary medical situations, and I was by myself. Caleb was on a trip, and I remember one time just got this diagnosis, and I was crying. It was very traumatic, and I was feeling very alone. And then I said, no, I'm not alone. Right? And I just started talking to the Lord. I'm like, you know what, you're here with me. I don't have to feel alone or worried, because you're here with me, and that's the best person to have with you. And He's with us all the time, and we can call on Him day or night, and He sees everything that's going on. He sees what we're feeling, what we're going through, and so it's important to be able to call on Him.
You're living vicariously through me and the crusades, the souls, the testimonies, the blind seeing, the deaf hearing, the cripples walking. You're hearing all kinds of amazing stories. But oftentimes you hear it through an email like everybody else, or a late night WhatsApp call on the other side of the world, a picture, a video, just like a lot of people do. But yet you're the co-founder of this thing. You're in this with me for life. Like, you're every bit as called and are reaping the fruits of that as well. How do you participate in it when you're not actually there physically in the actual crusades or the meetings?
Yeah, I am praying. There's been many times when Caleb has either been entering or leaving a country, and there's just been crazy situations and trying to catch flights or dealing with customs, and it's actually a very important role is to just praying. I know it keeps coming up prayer, but that really is important. There's been many times where we had to pray for a breakthrough, and it was an important part of it, and so that's one of the biggest ways I can help. And then also just taking care of the kids in the home while he is away. By taking care of those things, then he can go and focus on what he's called to do.
What's your heart for the ministry? What you see coming, where you see things headed, the family? We're in the 100th episode right now, celebrating what God has done in the ministry so far. When you see it, what do you feel the Lord's speaking to you on where things are headed?
Oh, I just feel it's just going to continue to grow, and just that's what it's all about. You know, we should all be soul winners. It doesn't matter what you do. You don't have to be an evangelist, you know, to be a soul winner. And so, you know, that's what it's all about. And I just see the Lord just continuing to bless it and use us and the others that are with us just to reach the world, just as He's called every one of us.
Yeah. There's a lot going on in the world right now, and a lot of people need hope. They need encouragement. What would you say to them right now to encourage them in this season and to build them up?
Yeah, you know, when you're facing difficult situations like this, you can either just take pity and go, woe is me, and just kind of sulk in it, or you can see this as an opportunity to grow. And this year has been very difficult for Caleb and I, just in our personal lives, just with medical issues and different things that were going on with my pregnancy, and it was rough, emotionally draining and exhausting, but through it all, it also really strengthened my faith in a lot of ways. Caleb and I have had to believe in big ways for financial breakthroughs, and this was a different level of faith for me, just to believe for things when it came to my health and being faced with possible months of hospital stays. And so yeah, you really have to look at it as an opportunity for you to grow in your walk with the Lord and to just grow in your faith.
Well, that's good. Thank you so much for joining today, Harmonee. I know I had to coax you into it a little bit to get on here, but you did fantastic. You might be made for TV and made for radio here. What do you think?
Well, I'm always open to it. My dad always said be ready in season and out of season, so I will be ready.
Awesome. For those that want to participate in our Vision a Million for 2021, you can go to kingdomencounters.us/give, and there on the website you'll find the giving link as well as the P.O. Box address. And for those that want to partner with us in 24/7 prayer, we're looking for people to stand with us for 1 hour each week, i.e. Tuesday at 7 p.m., every Tuesday at 7 p.m. You can go to kingdomencounters.us/prayer, and you can find the link there and sign up for an hour slot to cover us in 24/7 prayer. We thank you so much for supporting the ministry of Kingdom Encounters International, founded by my wife Harmonee and I. We're so excited to continue marching forward for our million soul vision this year. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Thank you for listening to Awaken the Wonder. If you enjoyed today's show and want more ministry like this, please visit kingdomencounters.us, where you can find weekly blogs and my latest book, Hunger. Be sure to subscribe and follow me on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at the tag Evangelist Caleb Wampler. If the Lord leads you to partner with us in the nations in prayer and giving, visit kingdomencounters.us. I'll see you next time.